stream.
Hey everybody in YouTube land. So one of the commentaries that I'm going to be doing for Rashid relates to setups and strategies for utilizing the level 2. A lot of times people just sort of, toss this thing out there like this, do some throws, maybe back and forth shimmy, kick it at people, whatever. And so, yeah, that's all well and good, but are there other ways to make use of the level 2 where you can you can be more likely to have, a higher yield or better effect in terms of like combo damage? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at sort of like maybe 3 or 4 bread and butter ways that you can bake a level 2 into combos or setups. And then we'll look at a couple more exotic setups too and combos that you can do if you want to have fun with some of those. So the most popular bread and butter setup for anybody who's watched pros play Rashid or just people in general is getting the person to the corner and setting up the heavy eagle spike amplified. So typically whatever you're doing, you want to be able to end in a target combo that then lets you go into the EX Cyclone and then into the heavy Eagle Spike, which is going to shoot you back. So however you get to the target combo is really sort of up to you, but it would end up looking something like this, right? Okay, so it looks full screen, but because they're actually in the corner, it's a lot less full screen than if you were mid-screen and you had a lot of distance between you. So what this distance does, why it works so well, is it gives you enough time when you set up that level 2 once you land to accost the person a little bit, but the level 2 is actually going to get to them and has the potential to hit them and set up a larger combo. So typically what I like to do in these situations, there's enough time to do this, is that you can set that up, right? And you can run forward and throw once. You get enough time after that as it's barreling down on them where you could either go low like I just did, or if you're doing the setup after the throw, you can do things like going for the overhead like that. So what does that actually get you? Assuming you hit them with the overhead, and this is really just a matter of timing at this point, you just have to get comfortable with the timing when it comes to the sequence that comes next. Okay, so that's what that looks like. You've got enough time when they're in the air if you hit them. Not only you get the damage of the level 2, which isn't a ton, but it's something. You have enough time to get into the light eagle spike, which is not going to shoot you back. It's going to get you additional damage. And if you've timed that light eagle spike right, you can do that whole sequence that you saw. You can do the EX mixer into the EX sky high, and that's a lot of resources. It is 4 bars, but the amount of damage you're going to get is absolutely massive because after the EX mixer and EX sky high, you can go into, if you don't have any more super meter, you can just go into a simple heavy mixer like I did, or you can do iterations on that. So as you can see there, that would be, if you wanted to do an iteration, you could do the medium mixer after into the level 1 if you had 3 bars for your super. So the typical amount of damage that might look like, you can see the damage information is now up on the screen. That's like just the basic heavy mixer finisher. You're talking about around 48 to 49% damage, which is, a lot. And it would look like even more than that, obviously, if you added the media mixer into the level 1 at the end. So as you can see there, you're really getting the potential for some massive damage. That's almost 58% damage if you do the medium mixer into the level 1. And, you got to keep in mind, if you've brought them to the corner and you have hit them with the setup, right, with the target combo into the EX Cyclone into the heavy spike, chances are at that point, like, you've got enough damage between the 49 to 58% damage here, plus the damage from that combo, plus whatever it took you to get them to the corner. I mean, this is round over, basically. So you can see why the pros like this so much. The damage is really, really high for a character who is generally known as average to below average damage. The way that you can utilize this in this very specific way, this is a very specific setup into combo damage, which is probably the most effective popular thing that you can do with Rashid, and it just takes really, I don't know, a little bit of timing, a little bit of practice in the training room to get the sequence down. Okay, so what about other options? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, there's a certain number of assumptions that are baked into that first bread and butter level 2. It assumes, number 1, that you can actually get them to the corner, which you may or may not be able to do. It assumes, number 2, that you've actually got enough meter to use a level 2 and ideally a level 2 and a level 1. And it assumes that you're actually going to be able to hit them with the overhead heavy punch. Now, most of the time, those 3 conditions probably aren't going to be satisfied. A lot of times for people who play Rashid, they decide they're just going to parry when they see that level 2 bearing down on them. And that's a pretty wise decision. They're going to take a throw or two. And so it's the difference between getting maybe 12 to 25% damage versus 45 to 58% damage, or in that range. So yeah, it's a really good tool, but the likelihood of being able to take advantage of that consistently, I do it sometimes in matches, but a lot of the time it just doesn't really. It's not really in the cards to be able to get it. So what does that leave you with? Like, what else can you do in terms of other ways to bake the level 2 into actual combos? That's what we're going to look at here. We're going to look at a second combo and setup that I really like. I use a lot in matches. This one's a lot easier to utilize. It does do less damage because it's easier to do, but it's sort of a tack-on thing that helps you use your level 2 after a corner carry combo, where it sets up a transition for you to do more damage in a second combo. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, so let's say you want to take somebody to the corner. You could do that in any number of ways. Obviously, if you're going to jump in and try and kick somebody to start a combo up, that's fine. If they're not going to anti-air you, you can do, if you've got enough distance between you, you can try to do the light cyclone, do the shoot forward into the medium kick as an overhead starter. A lot of times, obviously, people can see that coming pretty easily. You can try and do something a little bit faster and get closer, like do a drive rush into medium punch sequence into the target combo, which is a lot safer because it gives you all day to hit confirm with 3 hits. For example, 3 hits like this, right? That kind of setup, if you do an EX Cyclone after, you're going to connect on the EX Cyclone, and you can carry them to the corner too. Or you might want to just get in real easy and, something like a crouching light kick combo, right? And that can be used as corner carry too. So let's say you've picked your combo. Let's say for the sake of whatever, for this one, you're just going to do the drive rush, 2 medium punches into heavy kick. It gives you plenty of time to hit confirm. And you're going to use that one to take somebody to the corner. Right, so you get the X-Cyclone, you get the run kicks. Instead of doing something like the heavy mixer there, that's typical for an ending, right? People want to get that extra damage. But, there's obviously the classic sort of dilemma here. Do you take the scaled damage at the very end of the combo, which is not very much, it's just a few extra percent, but isn't nothing, right? And it can set you up for other meaties, like the heavy mixer, there's plenty of meaties come after it. Or do you do something else to transition you into a better position to try and get a lot of damage on your next combo? So one thing that I like to do sometimes, not every time I take someone to the corner, but if I have a level 2 built up, I will finish that combo with a level 2. And there's a reason why. You would look at it and say, why would you do that? Because it's going to be so scaled back, you're not going to get really very much damage from that level 2. But that's really not the point. The point is that it lets you be in a position, it puts you in a position where you can try to get damage on your next sequence. So if you've got the typical corner carry, right? You've got what? Medium mixer here, you've got heavy mixer, and you've got level 2 that you can do. Let's say we go with the level 2. Sort of mash out that sequence at the end. What can you do from here? You'll do an EX mixer, and that will help you set you up for a transition into the heavy sky high into the crouching heavy punch for your sequence setup. So take a look at that again with the extra stuff at the end. The heavy sky high, the down and heavy punch. See, well, there you go. That sets you up for an auto-timed meaty DI at the end. Now, if the person hasn't seen this sequence before, if you're trying it on them for the first time, it pretty much works almost every time. They might parry it. They might try and do an EXDP on wake up. They might try and do a super. But much, much, much more often than not, that DI right there will set you up for a really good combo after. So what could you do after the level 2 and after the setup with the DI? We'll set it up again. You can also do a heavy, you can do a charge EX shot there, get you even more damage. You can sort of do whatever you want at that point. Something typical like that is really effective. That's your sort of optimal damage combo. If you do the medium punch and you just leave a tiny bit of time in between the medium punch and the heavy kick, it's not a target combo, then it's just 2 separate hits. That gives you more damage than doing as a target combo. And it also spaces you in a way where you can do the light mixer into the heavy mixer after. So yeah, that's actually a really good sequence. Let's take a look at how much actual damage you would get there. We're already up to about 25% damage. It gets you to about 32.5% damage for the initial combo, which is not bad. And then you'll go into the DI, and what would you get after that? Let's see. Talking about around another 27% damage. So that's really good overall. You know, if you were to ask somebody or someone was to ask you, what would be a good amount of damage for a level 2, even as a transition there, if you can pull off that meaty DI into an optimal combo, you're talking about around 60% damage for that whole sequence. So is that a good use of your level 2? I think definitely. Now, one of the problems that you're going to run into is once you've done that once on somebody, they have to be a complete moron or not paying attention at all to what you're doing to allow you to do it again if you're playing a match, single match or a set or a short set or a long set or whatever. So what you really want to be able to do there, if you're going to use that level 2 as a transition there, is either for short sets, if you're just playing somebody like a match or two and you just want to do it once, that's perfectly fine. Or if you're playing in a longer set, you want to be able to bake in variations on the end after the charge shot into the EX mixer, into the heavy sky high and the down and heavy punch. So the other big iteration you can do here after level 2 and into the transition is instead of pressing the meaty DI at the end, you can do a whiff for light kick into the target combo, medium punch, heavy kick. And let's say we set our dummy for automatic wake up DI, because let's say that they got hit with this the first time and they're not going to get hit with it a second time. So they're ready on the second one to counter DI you. They know you're going to do a DI, and they're ready to counter it. Well, the whole point here is with varying it up that you don't do a DI the second time. If you whiff the light kick standing into the target combo, then that's actually going to set you up for immediate in and of itself when you do the target combo that will hit them, and it will give you enough time if they DI where you can actually counter DI. So you still get the DI, but you just wait for them to do their own DI first. So let's see what that would look like. Get your typical setup here, right? Yeah, see, you can counter that with your own DI and then do pretty much whatever you want after. That's just sort of like a basic combo there. You could do the optimal one that I was showing you a second ago, whatever. But basically, the point is that you've baked enough variation into your transitions here where now they'd have to guess. Is it going to be a DI straight up? Is it going to be an actual meaty into a combo where you have the option of DIing after? That gives you enough latitude here, leeway, flexibility, where it ends up being a really good tool either for just a single match if you just want to do it once, or if you want to sort of do this over and over to vary it up between the two different approaches. So what other options are there? A third sort of bread and butter B&B option is if you were to try and do a setup, for example, with Drive Rush, you could do something like you just saw, Drive Rush, medium punch, heavy kick, which is the target combo, and set up your level 2 directly from that, right? The target combo shoots you up high enough that you can actually level 2 right off of that. And there is potential after, depending on what you do, to tack on some additional damage. So we're going to see what that would look like right now, too. So you have the option to do something like that where it's not bad damage baked into a combo. You can do the Drive Rush, medium punch, heavy kick right into the level 2 directly. You can, for a single drive bar, which ain't bad, Drive Rush and get 2 heavy kicks, and then juggle that into the forward medium punch cancel into the light Eagle Spike, and you're going to get a little bit more than 27% damage there. You can also do iterations on that combo too. You could do the slide punch into the level 2 and do that same Drive Rush, HK, forward medium punch light spike there too. And so you can see it's the same 27% damage if you do it off the slide punch too. Because of the scaling on the original one, it might be more hits, but it ends up being the same damage. So you can do it either way, whether you want to do it as a side switch or the way you want to do it as a straight up combo with corner carry. But this is not a bad option too if you want to bake that level 2 into things. It just requires a little bit of timing in terms of getting used to how to do those juggles. Okay, final and fourth B&B bread and butter option is to use the slide. And if you don't do this too much during matches, if you just do it like once a match, let's say, or once a round, the opponent is less likely to see it coming if you're not doing it regularly. And what you can do is from the slide punches, you can go directly into the level 2. If you do a neutral jump after, it's going to shoot you forward a little bit, but it's going to set up the spacing really good for you to get an additional standing heavy kick into an EX mixer. And then you can go from there in terms of how far you want to take this and what kind of damage you want to get. There's multiple iterations. One of those is to go for sort of a standard medium punch in the air into, or light sky high in the air into medium punch into a level 1 at the end. Another option is to do the EX sky high at the end, and when they land on the ground and bounce, you can do a level 1 off the ground. But each one of these is going to require 3 bars of super to do effectively in terms of optimizing the combo. So we'll take a look at what that looks like now. That gets you about 34% damage. Not bad, actually, right? You probably noticed looking at that one, in order to do the reversal where you carry them to your corner, probably need to be closer to your side of the screen. Sort of like, they're pushing you back and you want to push back against them, pushing you into the corner. So that combo will take you far enough between the light sky high at the end, because the light sky high into the medium punch, sometimes the range can be a little bit wonky and weird in terms of also getting a level 1 after or getting all those hits. So yeah, you want to be sort of on your side of the screen to be able to do this one in that particular iteration. What would it look like in terms of some of the other iterations? As you can see here, you can do it or you just use even more EX during the combo, and then after the ground bounce, you do the level 1. That's going to get you about 37% damage. That's really good too, but again, you need to have 3 bars of super in order to do that. If you want to try and get really cheeky here and not use too much bar in terms of your EX bar, and you only want to do the EX mixer, you want to go into the light sky high, you want to get the level 1 super damage, but you don't want to do an EX sky high. What you can do is you can try and link this into a 1 or 2 frame connector, a ground bounce, where after the light sky high, you press down and heavy punch right before they hit the ground. And if you can get this timed just right, you can get the ground bounce into a medium mixer into a level 1. Or you could just do a heavy mixer to finish it off if you don't have the level 1. This is not a vanity combo. It is extremely hard to do, but it's not a vanity combo in the sense that you will get additional damage for this that makes it worth it if you have the skills to pull off the ground bounce. So that version of the combo, if you're just finishing with the heavy mixer, is going to get you around 31 to 32% damage. Let's see what it looks like if you do the medium mixer into the level 1 after. Okay, so if you do that with the medium mixer to finish after the ground bounce into the level 1, you're going to get 36%. So these are all within the same range, ballpark, in terms of damage. But they all look really pretty good if you have developed the sort of muscle memory and skill to be able to do that ground bounce. If you don't want to risk it with the ground bounce, which is totally understandable and acceptable, it's not the kind of thing you probably want to do in a ranked match, maybe in a custom room or casual match, unless you've done it so many times that you can autopilot it in a ranked match. It's not the kind of thing for like people who are just starting to learn this kind of stuff that you want to be doing in a ranked match or something. But when you get comfortable with it, yeah, you can see these are very viable combo options. And so maybe you want to do something simpler at the end with the EX mixer that I was just showing you. If you do the light sky high into the medium punch into the level 1, it's actually really easy execution, and it's still going to get you into the same ballpark of damage. And if you want to do a little bit of style on not quite vanity stuff, but tack on the additional damage for a lot more skill, you can do the ground bounce into the iterations, and particularly with the level 1 at the end, you're going to get even more damage there. All of these are viable options in Rashid gameplay. Okay, so what about the exotic stuff? We're going to have a little bit of fun here. The first exotic setup I'm going to show you is if you take someone to the corner. This is something I've never really seen anybody do except for myself. It's a little funky, it's a little odd, but it's really fun. People sort of scratch their head when they see it, but it actually gives you a really good amount of damage, which is why I do it. And that is when you take somebody to the corner, whatever the combo is that you do, to take them to the corner, right? You're going to have them in the corner, and you can either do this through a DI setup, however you want to set up your DI. If you want to do like, a manually timed immediate DI off of throw or whatever it is. You can do something like with your corner carry. Let's say you finish with a medium mixer. You can actually whiff a medium kick into a meaty throw. You can do that on heavy mixer finisher too, either way. But that's going to set you up with a throw for the meaty DI after manually timed. So when you do the meaty DI, what you're going to do after that, the sequence is you're going to start the rest of your combo with a crouching heavy punch directly into your level 2 because this cancels into level 2. And then from there, you will do like 3 eagle spikes in a row and finish it off with there are various iterations you can finish this with. I actually like the heavy mixer finisher the best rather than trying to do a medium mixer into a level 1 because the timing window with the DI is a lot harder than if you do this in a second way I'm going to show you in a minute, where the timing window is a lot bigger for execution. So let's just say we work through this whole thing here. You do your corner carry, right? Do your finisher, you do your whiff setup for your throw. Your media DI. Crouching medium into the level 2, right? You can see there, it's 2 EX spikes and a light spike into the heavy mixer. You're going to get 40% damage there. Is that worth doing? You've got to spend 4 bars to light them up for the combo, and you're probably going to have to spend a few bars getting them to the corner at least. A lot of that meter that you spent getting them to the corner will be back by the time you finish up your level 2 combo here. So I actually think just sometimes if you do this, it is worth it. But you're going to have pretty low meter at the end. That's to be expected with a meter hungry combo, but you're also getting 40% damage here in addition to whatever damage you got on the way here, which was probably somewhere between 25 to 30%. So really you're talking about a 65 to 70% damage yield here for this sequence between the corner carry combo and the actual combo in the corner. That's not bad. Use of your level 2, really, right? As long as you're watching your meter, ideally you don't want to burn yourself out with this combo. You want to have close to full meter when you start it up. So it's probably something that's good to do at the beginning of the round. Another way to do this, if you don't want to do it off a DI setup, you can set it up in another way and where you'll get even more damage, and we'll see what that looks like now. What you can do here is you could do your typical corner carry, right? Finish with the medium mixer. You definitely want to finish with the medium mixer here, because after that you can go into the heavy cyclone, and that's going to be meaty, and that's going to be your setup right there. The medium mixer into the heavy cyclone, back and kick will shoot you forward like that. And then you're going to want to hit heavy punch again in the air for the double punch overhead, because that will combo. So it looks like this. You can see that's 4 hits of damage, right? From here, you can actually combo into the crouching heavy punch, right? As you see there. Why does that matter? Because as you saw with the combo, that sets up the entire level 2. The crouching heavy punch can be canceled. Now you've got all day to hit confirm here. If you don't hit on the heavy cyclone to start off this meaty combo, or the overhead heavy punch, or the crouching heavy punch, you don't hit on any of that stuff, you're not going to go into the level 2. But you do have all day to hit confirm here before you spend your resources for the level 2. You can see there, that's 46% damage. You're going to get an additional 6% damage off of that if you do it off of the setup with the heavy cyclone. Okay, what if you want to get even more cute with this? What if you want to do a finisher after the 3 eagle spikes with the medium mixer into the level 1? Obviously, you have to have additional resources to do a level 1 at the end, but that would look something like this. Okay, so you're going to get 50% damage there if you do that. I don't recommend trying to land that combo as a beginner to this particular combo sequence. It's hard to do. It requires a lot of timing. Just hitting the window right to get the medium mixer into the level 1. I definitely don't recommend doing it off of the DI because the window's even tighter. If you were going to try it, it would be better to do it through the actual sequence here with the meaty heavy cyclone into the overhead. But typically when I end up doing this combo and I do it outside of the DI, I will do it and finish with the heavy mixer because 46% for me is good enough. The additional 4, yeah, it's more damage, but you also have to use another bar. And I'm not necessarily convinced that an extra 4% is that much better if you're using a whole level 1. Not bad though. Definitely a viable option. If you're talking about a combo that gets you up to 50% damage off of one level 1, that's not even counting the corner carry that you get to before this, which let's say maybe it's another 20 to 25% damage. You're talking about, again, in the ballpark here of 70% damage total for the sequence taking you to the corner in addition to the combo itself with the level 2. Not bad, right? Not bad damage. It's probably going to end the round in your favor if you can pull this off. The final exotic option for fun, the number 6 option here, is doing your level 2 off of an anti-air or a whiff punish. These are very situational, but very viable as well options. So we'll see sort of what that looks like. Let's say we program Ryu to go crazy with the heavy punches. Okay, well, what can we do off of that? Okay, you got to have full resources there. You've got to have the ability to not only whiff punish with the heavy kick, but go into the EX mixer and the EX sky high, and you're going to need to have the level 1 at the end of that, because it's not going to be a ground bounce where you can do a medium mixer after to punish. So that will get you 43% damage, though. Not too bad. How often do I do that combo? Not often. It's very situational, but it is definitely viable playing Rashid. The other one that I like to do is even more fun. That's when somebody jumps forward and you can anti-air them and involve the level 2. So this kind of stuff is advanced stuff here. This is fun, exotic stuff. But if you can get comfortable with the character and you can actually do this stuff in a match, it's really fun. Okay, so I've got my character programmed to do a jump in. What you want to do on a jump in for your anti-air is the heavy shot for anti-air, because the light kick one goes far, but it's not effective as an anti-air. If they're close enough to jump in on you here, right? You want the heavy one. That's going to catch them, as you can see there. So there's your last fun exotic combo with level 2 that you can do on anti-air. Pretty good damage. You're talking about around 41 to 42% damage on that, depending on the hits. Not bad. But this is the kind of stuff I think that is a Rashid player. Once you get to master rank, you should be trying to do this kind of stuff, working toward it. Because not only is it cool as hell and styling on people, but it also gives you a lot of damage. And it's also suggestive that you're becoming really comfortable with the character in terms of your skill level, that you can do high damage combos in very specific settings at will, that get you 45-50% damage. So the last 2 that I showed you, they would be seen as kind of exotic with all the eagle spikes or the juggles, but not only do they look cool, but they give you a lot of damage, worth doing once you've gotten comfortable with the other B&B bread and butter Rashid combos off level 2. Okay, so I hope this video and commentary was helpful. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of this content. I really just wanted to give people some information here with regards to what you can do with Rashid's level 2 outside of just tossing it out there randomly and hoping for the best and doing a couple throws and kicking it at somebody. That is a totally viable strategy on your way to master, and even after. Just using it as sort of a third player 3 on the screen while you just go to work and do your business and do whatever you want to do. I don't want to knock that. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But there are other ways to use the level 2, and this video hopefully gave you a lot of information on how to do that. Thanks so much for watching.